I'm Levi Steele, and this is the Ordinary People Podcast. All right, everyone, I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Ordinary People Podcast with me, your host, Levi Steele. Today, I'm honored to have another guest with me, Mr. John Nance. Thank you for being here, sir.
Great to be here. Totally didn't expect the invite or anything. I just got a text message that said, "Hey, man, I'm related to your friends, and I'd like to talk to you." So,
well, that's how a lot of my connections begin. I'm just like, somebody's like, "Hey, you need to have them on."
Yeah.
And so I go and try to figure out their contact, whether it's through Facebook, whether through a friend knows them, and my mom, she was the one that said, "You need to have him on. He's done some incredible things."
Well, we'll see.
Well, Mr. John, let's just kind of begin with how you know my grandparents.
It goes back. So you're talking about Robert and Chris.
Yes, sir.
All right. Miss Chris, as I call her, and Mr. Robert, they visited the church years ago, and I went to visit them, and I remember Chris saying she played the flute, and she was interested in playing in the praise band, and she's been there ever since. And then she worked at the hospital. And so I spent 15, 20 years, and that was the first stop every day of my day. I lived downtown Griffin, so I'd drive half a mile to the hospital, go through the hospital, find who was at Oak Hill, and check on the nurses. And so I got to know her from the hospital, and really well. And then just church as well. I just, not a whole lot about you and your family, but I just love them to death. I love going in their Sunday school class and seeing them every Sunday. I want to know, is there anything I can do for them? I've been there through. I want to say your granddad had a back surgery or something several years back. I was there through that. My ministry is pastoral care in the last 15, 20 years has caused me to visit hospitals, and wherever people are, I'm trying to be there, and for surgeries, for deaths, for whatever it is. I've been in their lives that had the best and worst parts of their lives, and so that's sort of where I've come from.
Yeah, and you talk about pastoral care. Explain that to me.
Pastoral care. I'll take you back to the beginning of my ministry at Oak Hill, and I was hired as the young adults pastor, and that meant that I cared for everybody between 20 and 40 years old at the time. So, as I said, Sunday I would call most everybody on Saturday and see if you planned on being there Sunday, and then if you weren't there on Sunday, I'd call you on Monday to see where you were. And so I was there for babies' births and grandparents' hospitalizations and deaths and this and that. So I did that for a number of years, and then one day in the middle of staff meeting, our pastor looked at me. He said, "John," he said, and we had hospital days. So somebody went on Monday, somebody went on Tuesday, I went on Wednesday, and then it sort of turned out that I was just, I guess, good at it and enjoyed it. It didn't matter that I'm not an agenda person. And so a senior pastor has a list of, I got to do these 12 things today, and if it doesn't get done, it's a failure. I'm not one of those people. If you need me to take care of you for all day long, I'll be there with you all day long. And that's okay with me. So one day in staff meeting, I got changed from young adults pastor to pastoral care pastor, because that's what I did. So I preached hundreds of funerals over the last 25 years. I have most of them saved in my computer. If somebody were to die, and if somebody died 15 years ago and their wife dies tomorrow, I could go back and pull their funeral up and see what I said then and what I can say tomorrow. And so I've just done that. Hospitals, they become second nature to me, and I just want to care for people. I want to pray with them. I don't want them to go through stuff alone. And so I became pastoral care.
So take me back to where ministry really began for you, because you said young adults pastor initially. Was your job there at Oak Hill? So where did that begin? Was there a calling from a young age that you?
Yeah. This pastoral care stuff, if it were not for a calling, I would have been in an insane asylum, because I've been through some crazy things with people. But you wanted to hear my testimony, so can I sort of jump to that?
Let's go.
So jump to that since you asked the question, because it's all a building up. I grew up at Oak Hill Baptist Church, Linden Avenue, down off of 41 bypass through Griffin, north side of town. We were a Mill Village church, and the mill was across the street. A lot of the people that went to the church lived right around the church, and years ago they walked to church. By the time I came along, people were driving from around Griffin to Oak Hill, so it wasn't necessarily Mill Village, though my grandmother and other family did work there at the time when I was a child. So I grew up there, and I knew all the songs, and I knew all the stories, the Bible stories from the felt boards in the nursery and everything. But as an adult, I don't remember all that. I can't tell you about certain things, because when I was 9, I was in an auto accident with family on our way to a family reunion in Alabama, and I was riding with aunt and uncle and cousin, and then my mother's aunt and uncle. So my Uncle Ed, my Aunt Cassie, my Uncle Tony, my Aunt Kay, and Evan, my my cousin. And we were all injured in one way or another. Head whiplash, cuts on the head. I don't even know, because I spent 15 days in a coma after that. My parents were told that if I made it 24 hours, that I'd probably be in a vegetative state the rest of my life. So as a 9-year-old, of course, I came home a month later, and that summer, I don't remember that summer. So I had to learn to walk, talk, add, write, anything I had ever known. I had to sort of get it back under my belt. And I went with my regular fourth grade class. I should have been kept back probably in the third grade, but I went on with my fourth grade, and I made it. And so that was at 9, and then one Sunday morning. So I still don't remember. I remember going to fourth grade. I don't remember that summer getting to the fourth grade or anything.
So it kind of gave you some memory issues there. The whole accident, that was kind of one of the side effects of it. Once you came out of the coma.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember very little of the first 9 years of my life today. Okay.
And you believe that's because of
the accident.
Yeah.
In the last 6 months, the last 2 years have been very difficult in my ministry. I'll go back to the accident in a minute. But the last 2 years have been very difficult in my ministry. I've had some anxiety issues. I've had concentration issues. I've had I spent a year a couple of years ago and basically slept my life away almost. I would go to work, but I would go to lunch planning to go home, go somewhere, but then I would end up at home, set my alarm for 1 o'clock and sleep till 1. Whatever time I got home, 12:10, 12:15, I'd sleep till 1 o'clock, get up and go back to church, go do my job. Then I'd go home and I'd go to sleep. Well, that's not normal. And I was having other issues. So I got on some one thing led to another, and I got on some medicine that's helped all that. And it's much better. But it turns out that all that stems from that accident, because I can't tell you when, but sometime in this last year, I was walking my son's dogs. My wife and I were on a walk, and I hit the lip in the sidewalk where it was raised up. Tripped, hit my eye. My eye turned black, and it was terrible. Went to the emergency room, and the doctor, after a while, after doing some tests and X-rays, came back to me. He said, "Well, we were afraid you might have some broken bones around your eye because it did not look good, and but you don't have any of those. That's the good news. The bad news is you've had a stroke, and so I have stickers on everybody's refrigerator in my family that says FAST. Your grandmother probably has one, but that stands for face, arm, speech, time. That's the things you look at when somebody's had a stroke. Their face sags, their speech slurs, your arm goes numb, and then you want to do something as fast as you can to get it taken care of. So FAST. I know the signs of a stroke, and I had not had any. Well, from there I said, well, if I've had a stroke, I need to go to a neurologist because that's who treats you. And I learned all this from being taking care of people in all kind of situations over the last 25 years, and so I have a friend who's a neurologist in Lawrenceville. I made an appointment. My wife and I went up there and explained to him what all's been happening. He looked at the CD that I took of the pictures of my brain, and when he showed it to me, and when he told me what was going on, it sort of threw me into shock. I wasn't myself for a little while because he looked at it and he said, "Remind me which side that accident was on. Where was your damage?" I said, "It was right here on the right side." He said, "Okay, where this doctor said it was a stroke. If this was a stroke as big as it is, you'd be curled up in a bed somewhere dying." He said, "This is damage from when you were a kid and when you had that accident." So, and then he showed it to me. When you look at your brain through CT scans or whatever they take, it should be white. Good tissue, good brain tissue is white. This side was all white, and this side was mostly black, which meant that for most of my life, my left side has compensated for the 30% of my brain that doesn't work from that accident. So I've grown up. I have a college degree and a master's degree, and 30% of my brain doesn't work because it's dead. It's in the black category. The white works. So, and that sort of led to my retirement from ministry, from church work, and I'm okay with it now. I grieved. I went through a period of grief. I'm not ready to quit. I still want to do what I've always done, but God's got me doing some different stuff now. So take you back. Okay, so we have the accident. We have repercussions of the accident. I've seen pictures that I've never seen before that sort of blew my mind. When you look at what a good brain looks like and what mine looks like, I shouldn't be as far along as I am, I think. But back at that 9-year-old, I went home, started, and one Sunday morning, it was in November. My sister and I spent the weekends with my grandparents in Williamson, where the church is. That's where we spent our summers and weekends, right there. And so I woke up. It was Sunday morning, and I just knew. It was like God was talking to me and saying, "You know what? I brought you through this last time, but the next time you might not be so lucky. So when's the next time? We don't know. Me and you aren't promised to make it out of this this interview right here. So I don't know when my next time is as a 9-year-old. So I knew enough how to ask Jesus into my heart, and I did. I didn't tell anybody. I went to Sunday school. I didn't talk to anybody. I sat and worshiped, didn't talk to anybody. And just so happened, we did not have a pastor at the time, so we had guest speakers, guest pastors at this time. 1979. I don't even know who it was. I think it was an old man. Might have been a former pastor of Oak Hill. I don't know. But my grandfather gave the invitation. One of the deacons, and he was down front, and the music started. I sat with my best friend, Tim Williamson, and his mother sat right here to the left. My parents were in the choir. Timmy's daddy was in the choir. And that's just how we sat. I grew up not sitting in church with my parents. They were in the choir. My mom's always been in the choir. And me and Timmy just sat together for years. And so I was the third person in. I crawled around both of them, went out, went up, and went forward. And I said, I need to be baptized. And so that was a start from, at the basic. Part of being called to the ministry is having a relationship with God. And so I had it now. I've been through hell and back. My parents had. And so now I'm saved. Well, it goes on for the next, 6 years or so. 15 years old, I was a counselor at the Flint River Baptist Camp. Probably too young to be a counselor, but me and Vernon Ritchie, he was a high school teacher. I grew up with his daughters, and me and him counseling, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids at the Baptist camp, and we had missionaries there, sharing testimonies and this and that, and somehow or another I walked away from that and knew that God had called me to something, whether a missionary, a pastor, I don't know, but God just developed a pastor's heart in me, and so I graduated from high school in '88. I went to Carson Newman College, finished my degree in 4 years. Met my wife there, and we got married 2 weeks after we graduated. And then I worked at a church in Griffin, Edward Street. My wife and I worked at a building. There were no people there, but we went in there and tried to revive it for the summer. Went from there to North Carolina. My wife and I's first home was a one-bedroom duplex on seminary campus, and I was there for 3 years, and then I went and began my ministry in North Carolina for 3 years, and then 2 years at New Hope, where you're attending right now, and right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was the pastor where you're attending, and then I've been at Oak Hill for 25 years, doing what I've done.
So it was pretty much a full circle thing. You started at Oak Hill, and then God just brought you
back
home.
Yeah.
So take me back to that accident.
Okay.
What exactly happened on the road that day?
I don't know. I don't remember it, but I'm told that my uncle went around the car, passing on two lane road, and the guy sped up, hit us, knocked us into a spin. I'm also told that there's a boulder on the side of the road, and we might have hit the boulder, and I might have hit it, or I hit the door handle. I don't know what it was, but it was enough to fracture my skull. It was enough to do a lot of damage, to mess my life up, and to put me in a coma for 15 days. So that's all I know about the accident. And the hospital stuff. I was there for 3 weeks after I came out of the coma, and I don't remember any of that. All I know is what I'm told, and that's all I can tell you about a lot of my life before 10 years old is what I'm told.
So do you believe that if you hadn't have had the accident, that the Lord would have led you down the path career-wise that you went down?
I've never thought about that. I don't know. When I was growing up, I wanted to be like my dad. My dad was a banker. I'd be a banker. But people knew that I was going to be more than a banker. People knew at a young age that ministry was in my life, that I'd be a pastor of some kind, that I'd be in a church somewhere. It just took God and His development, His plan to get me there. So I see it all as providential. God had a plan, and He had to work it. So I'd have probably been there, but I don't know. I don't know if it had gone that way. So
Can you talk to the point of trusting God when you can't see the outcome? Because I know for me that's been something I've kind of struggled with in owning my own business in this house investment project we did. Well, some months can be good for my business, and I may make good money. Other
yeah,
months,
yeah,
I'm just struggling to get by.
yeah,
And so the Lord's really kind of in that been teaching me how to trust Him, and my parents have encouraged me in that. But I know a lot of times the ministry is one of those things where you have to depend on the Lord for everything.
yeah. And thankfully, God has provided well for me through ministry. But I'm at that state now that I don't have a paycheck coming in. My wife's a school teacher at a private school, and you don't make that much at a private school. And I don't have anything. I've been told what I will make with disability. I've been approved for disability. We're just waiting to get the final things hemmed out for that, but before I get my check. But I God is providing. I don't know how, but He is. I know that I'm living because my parents have done well and have saved well and are able to help us out right now. And but God's using me in different ways through this time. Can I share some of that with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So July. I think July was my final days at Oak Hill as a staff member, and my wife, somehow or another, we just kept finding ourselves at Tyus Park, Wyoming, at Tyus Park, walking on the walking track. I'd never walked around the lake on the walking track, but we went there and we just found a lot of comfort there. We were just there this past week, and there's eight geese that are normally there, and there have been six lately. So I think the two have been flying at other lakes in the area, but anyhow, it's very, very comforting out there. The wind blowing. It was the pond was very wavy this week because of the wind and everything. But one day I decided that I'm just not going to go there. I'm just going to start walking here at my house. I live in downtown Griffin on Sixth Street, and so I just started walking downtown, and lo and behold, God led me downtown to Solomon Street, where I've driven and been all my life, and I met some new people down there, homeless people, and I started doing things that I've never done, never thought I would do, helping them, having lunch with them, sitting on the bench with them and talking. And I've one day I'm sitting at corner, I'm introducing Corner Cafe to people that are what we would call a nuisance outside, because they're just sitting out there waiting on the ministry to open up and feed them breakfast or feed them lunch, or maybe they get to eat lunch. Maybe they get to go in for a little while out of the summer sun, and they did that. But I built some relationships with these guys, and Keith's one of my favorites, and I've actually he worked somehow in I won't say a Lowe's or a Home Depot, but some kind of, selling bulk stuff, I think. Well, I'm also have a friend who's the head of Habitat for Humanity in Griffin. And so I was sitting eating with him, and he was telling me about what all he's done. I said, if you could help somebody but not making any money, use what you know and the resources you have and the abilities you have, would you like to help somebody for free? He said, yeah. So he has spent a lot of Saturday mornings over the last year. Not a lot lately because I haven't been around, but I've gone and got him at 7:00 and taken him to a Habitat house or to help Mark build a wheelchair ramp on somebody's house or somebody's trailer at the trailer park, or and he 2 weeks ago he and I went to a house on East Solomon Street somewhere out there, and we helped replace some porch stuff on a lady's porch, and who gives those people a chance? I don't know. The people that we call homeless. He's homeless. He said if you want to be homeless, Griffin's the best place to be, because there's somebody on every corner that's giving stuff away to people that don't have anything. We got Russian's Hope. We got 5 loaves, 2 fish. We got you go to this church. People make a round. But the thing about Keith is that Keith, I said, man, he says, John, if I don't need anything, I'm not going to ask you for anything. He said, if I really need something, I'll ask you. I mean, I don't even remember when this was, but it was going to be cold. So it was probably back in November, October, somewhere. Is it Christmas time? Because my wife got 2 blankets from students, 2 of her students at Christmas time. And she's like, John, I got these and they gave them to me, and I do appreciate them, but I'm thinking about Keith. It's going to be cold tonight and tomorrow morning. You want to take these and see if he needs them? Well, I took 2 blankets to Keith, and there were 2 guys sitting there, both of them, the Keith that I knew and the other guy that I met. And the thing about being homeless is you keep what you have in a bag or whatever. Some people it's in a buggy. Some people it's in a grocery cart. But everything he owns is in a bag about that big and about that high that you carry around. And that blanket didn't fit in there. So Keith told me, he said, I don't need it, John, but I'm going to give it to so-and-so right here. I think his name was Ray. And he did. So there's been 1 blanket in my car for a long time. Well, it's been there. And I've been, a cousin of my mother's had a stroke some weeks back, was in the hospital for a long time, is now over at the Spalding, it's on Airport Road. It used to be the Living Center. It used to be Renaissance. Been a bunch of things, but I will tell you, whatever it is now is jam up nice. I can just say great things. But Joel was he had a stroke that has caused him to lose his right side. He can't move his right arm. He can't move his left leg, his right leg. He can't talk. So I've been trying to figure out things, I figured out coffee, and I took him cream and Splenda and sugar. I said, which of these you want? He wants 2 cream. He don't want anything else. So I figured that out. But I figured out that he was cold. I got him a fan one day because it was burning hot in his room. I said, man, it is burning up. He said, yeah, and so I realized he was hot. I went and bought him a fan. Well, when it's not hot in your room and it's cool outside, a fan will make you cold. Well, guess what? I said, I got a blanket. So I went outside, got that blanket out of my car, brought it back, unwrapped that thing, laid it up on him, and he was happy as a lark. Now that blanket wasn't there the next day or the 2 days after. Some is either getting washed or somebody stole it. But for one night, he was warm because my wife gave me a blanket. She was worried about Keith, and that blanket was still in my car, and I was able to take it in for Joel. So that's just it's the way that God's chosen to use me, and it's I don't people who have signs, I don't stop and give them money. When I didn't have a job 20 something years ago, after New Hope, I worked in the deli bakery at what's now Food Depot. It was I can't remember, Bruno's is what I went to work as. But I went to Bruno's and I worked in the deli bakery. I was a donut man. I made donuts 6 o'clock every morning for the day. I learned to cut meat. I was a baker. I baked bread and made yeast rolls and all kind of stuff. But I was able to put food on the table for my family until God opened the door for me to go to Oak Hill. And I've always thought that, you can find something you can do to get some money to get some food. But now God's changed me a little bit, and I met Keith, and things are a little different now. I see things a little different. I'm still not going to probably roll down my window and give somebody some change because I don't carry change in cash, so I don't have that. But I might, if you catch me on Solomon Street, I'll take you in the corner cafe and buy you a meal and get you some water or some drink or whatever. So that's different. That's a whole different side of John that's never been there.
So the Lord's kind of taken the skills he gave you once for people inside the hospital, and he sort of developed these skills into ministering to the homeless.
Sort of, yeah. Yeah.
So I know oftentimes it can be really easy to judge a lot of those homeless people, especially sitting there with a sign and ones that look completely fine and healthy and just, you're like, they're just trying to take advantage of you, or they're just looking for a handout or whatever. How do you have to kind of ignore that in the back of your mind, I guess, and kind of see them how God sees them? Or how do you tell the difference between one that's trying to take advantage?
I still don't know that. I'm learning. God's taken me off the streets a little bit. That was several months, and then other things have happened, and I'm substituting some at Trinity Christian Academy, and that's taken a little time, and then I had a break from that, and then I've done some things. But I have to be really focused. I guess God just has to move me to get me out, to walk down the street, to get on Solomon Street, to go see those guys right now. But like I said, I went and found Keith. When I go sit down with Keith, the first thing he asks me is, how are the guys? And that means the senior adult men that work on Habitat for Humanity that he's gone and worked Saturdays with. So those fellas have made a dent in his life, have allowed him to be used in a useless situation for him. And if I've done that, I think that's pretty good. So when I go to Corner Cafe, sometimes I'll go out the door, hang a right, go around the corner, and I'll go find him. And I'll sit and talk with him. And he still doesn't ask for anything. But if he needs something, he knows he can call me. He's got my phone number. He doesn't know where I live. He knows I live close by. But he can call me anytime. And I'll do what I can to help him. So I don't know the answer. Some of the people are he'll tell you. He'll let me know they're not okay in the brain, John. And I've come to realize that. But it's just time. Taking time to sit down with them, spend a little time with them. I met a guy named Ray Dahl. Now Ray, last time I heard from him, he was in Smyrna. He had gone from Griffin to Smyrna somehow. But Ray played. He was a college basketball player. Played with back when I was a kid. There was a professional player, Bob Hornacek, I think is his name. He played college basketball with that guy and a few other people that are names that people would know from college and professional basketball. Well, as a 20-year-old or 18, 19, 20-year-old, you tend to get messed up. Well, he got messed up. He got out of it, and I don't know. I don't remember what kind of work he did, but he was on the street, and he was gonna go with me and Keith to work on Saturday morning, but he ended up dropping out of that and didn't go. But sometimes you can just find some people, and if you're just walk the street with a heart, a receptive heart. That's what God's had to do to me, to change me from the hospital halls to the Griffin streets, to see that people are out there and they're sick just like the people in the hospital, and sometimes all they need is somebody to talk to, somebody to listen to them. So I do that sometimes.
And I would argue that that's not just in homelessness. That's in everyday life. There's always somebody that wants someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes about interactions with people just throughout my day, and just watch how people interact with each other, and how it's so vague and there's no depth to it. And we've talked about this before on the show, but a lot of which I think is due to technology and social media and people always with the phone in their face. But you never know what somebody's going through.
Nope.
And the intentionality to stop and ask them about their day, but not just, oh, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Having
Fine.
depth there.
Yeah.
Ask a question that they don't expect you to ask. Because the cashier, she's had everybody ask her, how's your day been? The whole day.
Yeah.
But it's just something we say. It's a greeting we say. There's no depth. We don't really care.
My wife and I watched a movie last night. We were up pretty late. She had a doctor's appointment, so she didn't go to school today and teach. She had a substitute plan. And then I went to Noonan. I had an appointment in Noonan at 12, so I was home in the morning. So we stayed up a little late last night and watched a movie on Hallmark. And it was about this little girl, and her mother had died sometime earlier. And so this teacher's assistant, she said, how are you doing? Fine. A 9-year-old girl whose mama's died, whose mama's your everything. She dies and you watch her die and you watch her sickness and this and that. It'll wear on you. And part of what I do is grief share. And grief hits everybody in a different way. If you've loved and you've lost, you've got to grieve. So if I love my wife and I lose my wife, I'm gonna grieve, whether I want to or not, whether I think I'm strong enough and I don't have to. I'm still gonna grieve. Well, this little girl's grieving, and the teacher's assistant, she said, "Well, how are you doing?" Fine. She said, "You're not really fine, are you?" She said, "Nah, I'm not fine. My mama died, and I miss her, and da da da." Well, this lady, this teacher friend, who becomes a really good friend, she says, instead of saying fine, why don't you say, my heart is, my heart's like a balloon that's been deflated, and somebody poked a hole in it and it's gone. Something people don't expect, and it explains how you are, and it makes it, they just don't walk on. Well, she went home that night, and Dad asked her, how you doing? He expected her to hear fine, and she said, well, my heart feels like it's been popped, like a balloon that's been popped, and all the air's gone out. And went like this, and well, okay, well that defines how you are. So what if we were to meet people out on the street, and instead of them just saying fine, they said something like that? Well, I guarantee you'd stop finding out more, whether they were 9 years old or 99 years old, because they're letting you know either something's good or something's bad, and maybe we'd take a little time to listen.
Absolutely.
That that little girl, she went home to her dad and she said, "Hey, Mom, Dad, can I have a play date this week?" He said, "Sure. Who do you want to invite over?" "Well, I want to invite Becca over, and so can we have ice cream?" "Sure, we'll meet at the ice cream shop. You and Becca can come." Well, this little 9-year-old brings her teacher's assistant because that's her friend. That's somebody she related to, somebody who actually took the time to hear how she really felt and make her express how she felt, and
Who took the time to care?
took the time to care. So, I mean,
Yeah,
when I say pastoral care, that's what I mean.
well, and I mean, that's a great example because I'm sure there's many times that you went into hospital rooms of people that probably didn't have any family that really cared or just didn't have any family.
Yeah,
And they're just like, okay, well, I'm going to sit here and die alone. But you come in there not knowing their story or what they've been through,
yeah.
yet you still care about their situation.
Somebody asked me, I couldn't tell you what room it was in, who the guy was, or who the family was, but the family asked me, "Hey, can you go to room 229 visit my relative? He's lost. I don't know how long he's going to live." And so I went in there one day and I met him. And then I went in the next day and I talked to him some more. Then I went into there the next day and I said, "You know what?" I said, "I want you to know that your family's worried about you." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And they're worried about your salvation too. They know you're pretty sick and they don't want you to die without Jesus. Well, that guy died. He prayed to receive Christ because his family was worried about him. Somebody took the opportunity to come share with him. Came to his room 3 times. That was the last time I saw that guy. I don't know if he died, but he wasn't well enough to get released. It's possible he died in the next 24 to 48 hours. And that was the last person he ever saw was me, who took the time to share Jesus with him. He prayed to receive Christ. I couldn't tell you anything about the circumstances, but I remember that happening. And I don't have a clue. But
It shows you how much just caring goes,
yeah.
how far it goes for some people. I have,
So can I stop you there?
yeah,
So when I was in the hospital back as a kid, some of those stories that I've been told are stories about people who drove from Griffin to Atlanta, to Georgia Baptist Hospital, Atlanta Medical, to be with my parents, to be in the waiting room. About kids that would come but didn't get to see me because I looked too bad and they were too young to go back in the ICU. But people and Oak Hill people cared for my parents who, my mom stayed at the hospital. My dad would come home and work. My mom was a telephone operator, but she had so many years in such service, so they'd say, "Hey, you go take care of John. We'll take care of the rest of it when you get back." So she stayed at the hospital for a month, come home once in a while, get some clothes, take a shower. But we had friends that would bring clothes to my mom, so she didn't have to go home. Church people that would come and sit with them in the waiting room. I'm told that my grandfather Ed Carden, he would just look for people. He said, "Hey, how's John? Come on, let's pray," is what my pop would say. Prayer is the only thing that's going to get this boy through it. Let's pray. And so that's how doctors couldn't explain how I got better, but my mom could. Prayer and God. People all over the world were praying for John Nance, and so I like to do that.
I had this lady on about a week ago talking about the power of prayer. She prayed for her husband for 17 years before he received Christ.
Yeah.
Persistently,
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
giving up.
Yeah.
And it really, there's something that my home church that I grew up in does very well. They have a text thread that's for prayer requests, and they'll say, John's cousin or whoever is sick with this in the hospital. Somebody that nobody in that church really knows that well. But I guarantee you, every single one of them, they drop what they're doing and pray for that person. Not because they know that person or that they're their best friends or whatever. Because one, they care for the person that person's related to or know, and two, they know that's a soul. Either whether it's saved or unsaved, they know that's a soul. And what I've learned through just my life experience, and it's not extensive, being only 20 years old, but just through that and having conversations with people like you and others about prayer, is how powerful it is. And and how special it is to God when we come before Him with a request. Something that I've thought a lot about is, and I've heard people talk about, is faith. When you pray for something, having faith, because oftentimes what we do is like, all right, Lord will, heal their body, heal them from this brain disease or whatever it may be, or this pneumonia or whatever. But oftentimes there's no faith behind that prayer. We're just praying it, but we don't really believe that they'll be healed. And we're like, oh, well, they're 85 years old. This is their time to go. They lived a good life. That pneumonia is just something that happens at this age. And there's no faith behind it. We just pray this hollow prayer without any truly believing that the Lord can heal it. And what does the Bible say? If you have the faith of a mustard seed,
move mountains.
Exactly.
This mountain will be moved. So yeah, it's I've seen a lot of people healed, but I've seen a lot of people die. Something that I teach, something I believe and that I teach and try to give comfort to others, is that before the beginning of times, this is in Job and Psalms, God knew the second we would be born, every one of us, and the second we'll die. And so I have comfort in knowing that I'm not going to die until God's ready for me to. And I have comfort. I hope that I can comfort others by saying it was their time to die. There wasn't anything you could do about it, because God knew from the beginning of time what he. Sometimes it's pneumonia. Sometimes you're perfectly great this second and dead the next, and or a week in the hospital. And I was fit as a fiddle right here. Something happened. I got pneumonia, and then he died. Well, God, in His infinite wisdom, had to get you ready for that second. If it's not pneumonia, it would have been driving down the road and running into 20 people in a car, because God knows exactly when you're going to die. And that's scriptural, that's biblical. And as I think about and as counseled so many over the years through grief, it's a freedom that I didn't do anything wrong, that I didn't miss something, that God was perfect, and He took my husband, He took my wife, He took my child at exactly the time that He planned to take them, and there wasn't a single thing I could do about it. That's some of the most freeing words and freeing scripture that you can have in your life, and it's pretty cool. So that's faith. You know, I can have faith that God's going to heal you, but I can have faith that God's going to take you exactly when He needs you to come home, and He's always on time.
And I'd say to that, it's hard because we want to do whatever we can to prolong our life, or we want to know when that's going to be. But that's I think that's what's so extraordinary and special about God, that's a mystery to all. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Just like nobody knows the day or the hour He'll return.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the day or the hour that they're going to die. So it's what we do with that time He's given us.
Exactly. What are you going to do? I met a lady this week. Christmas Eve. Her grandson was diagnosed with some brain cancer, brain tumor. 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. He fought. He went through treatments. He did this. He back and forth to the hospital, chemo, radiation, da 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 da. And he got to the point, and he said, "I'm tired." And he chose to go on hospice care. 18 years old. 18 years old. And his grandmother had basically raised him and his brother since they were very young. And 18 years old, and he died Christmas Eve. I say that because for you, for your parents, for your grandparents, it's good to have a plan. I know that if I get cancer, I'm not going to take any treatments. I'd rather have a quality of life and live what went to that second that God has with without the pain of chemo or anything. I don't want to do any of that. I've watched hundreds of people go through it and just ruin them and their family and this and that, and I've decided I don't want to do it. I also have my wedding, my funeral planned. I think I have 5 songs. I'll be listening to K-Love on the radio, and that's one of my funeral songs. I can't tell you what they are right now, but if I hear them, I know them, and Connor Westbury knows them. So over the years, I've texted Mike. I said, "Hey, I want this in my plans. I'd like this played at my funeral." One of them is at the very end. I've talked to my wife about it. I said, "Hey, this is an exciting song, and I can just see you leaving the front row of the service and just sort of dancing down the aisle to this song, and so I have all that planned. It's in there. I think I even have part of my message in my funeral plans as well. I think I have my dad. I have some of my dad's message written out. He's not going to die today, I don't think. But I think about these things, and so let's say your dad's a teacher. He's a principal, been a principal, and loves kids, and he's pretty active. But let's say that he were to die tomorrow or tonight, even. What are you going to do? Well, I want my family to just make a phone call. I don't want my family to have to sit down tomorrow and go through all the names of the family and all the questions that the funeral director asks when somebody dies. So we've already done that. My mom and dad have done that. Mine's done. My wife's done. All somebody has to do is make a phone call. I recommend that anybody at any age with family, with people that love them, go ahead and do that. It's like giving them a Christmas present, and it's not even Christmas yet. Make sure your life insurance is right. Make sure you have some, because you don't want to put your family in a strain. my wife and I, make sure your will's made out. Make sure that what you want done and what you want people to have is done, because without a will, it's going to the government, to the courts, and they'll decide what happens to what you have. People just think, well, this is mama's and I'm gonna get it. No, without a will, you're not. There's a whole lot of things that we can do now when everything's good in our lives to make things a lot better when things are bad in our lives. And as a person who's talking, who's just an ordinary people, right?
Yes.
I'm just an ordinary people. I've learned a lot, and I've been through battles with families over courts, over deaths, over who gets what, and what songs going to be sung, and who's going to preach. Go ahead and make those decisions. Go sit down with the funeral director. Make things easier when that time comes, because we don't know when it's going to come. But it's a whole lot easier to decide things before than when you're in the anxiety state that you're in after a loved one dies. Because people think, oh, we live in a fast food society. We expect things now. And when I die, somebody's going to be having my funeral in 2 or 3 days, and they're going to want to know, the hospital's going to want to know immediately which funeral home am I going to call. Who's going to come pick the body up tonight. And so it's good to have those things in mind. I've thought about them. I've got the plans, but I encourage people to go ahead and do that. When I'm with people in hospice or at the hospital and things are not looking good, I'll ask them, have you made plans, and have you gone through? I'd recommend that you go ahead and go through all these names, because it's easy to think about them on this side of the death instead of the other side of the death. Who cares who his granddaddy was and when he was born, where he came from? You can't think of that when you're in the grief-stricken state of your loved one dying, but you can think of that stuff days, weeks, months, years ahead of time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's important to prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if we wait, it's not as easy.
Well, Mr. John, I want to thank you for just joining me on the show today and being my guest. This has been an honor for me. And
wow.
I think we've had some great conversation here today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
I hope it's gone the way you wanted. You had a list of things, and
absolutely.
I'm not sure we covered any of them.
Oh, we did more than enough. This was fantastic.
Good.
So thank you, sir, and I wish you the best in the future and what the Lord has for you coming up.
Thanks, man. You care if I pray for us?
Absolutely, I would love that.
Lord, we just lift you up, and thank you for Levi. I thank you for the family he's come from. What great parents. Grandparents on both sides. His siblings are great. They were covering up blueberry trees a little while ago, bushes, so they don't freeze. Evidently, it's going to get colder. So I know that they know that. I don't. But Father, I thank you for this opportunity, and I've tried to share a little bit of who John is, who he was, and what you're developing into now. And so, Father, I thank you for Levi taking me down these roads and down these stories. And Father, even pastoral care talking about preparing for the end. Lord, we know you're coming back, and it could be any time. And we know you're going to call our name to go to heaven, and it could be any time. Death's right around the corner sometimes. So Father, if somebody heard this and they hadn't thought about funeral homes, they hadn't thought about the names on the list, the questions that are going to be asked, I pray they'll go ahead and do that, because it's going to make somebody's life a whole lot easier down the road. Father, I just ask that you give us peace. Father, it's cold outside. Be with our friends and neighbors. It's You're good, God, and I thank you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Mr. John.
Yes, sir.